Hello, people. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you may be watching us from. So, today we're going to do a deep dive on CAF and the AFCON. So, we want to see what has gone on. We also what happened in the finals, but we need to put everything in context. So, that's what I'm going to do tonight. So, first and foremost, if you've not joined us, if you've not subscribed to our channels on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, X, and on YouTube, please do so now. Thank you so much. That's the way you can support us and then share. When we put information out, please do share. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. We've enjoyed your unalloyed support all through these years, and we want to continue doing that. So we are going to do a deep dive today, a deep dive. So it might take a while. So if you cannot follow us all through on Facebook, you can watch it later on YouTube. You can watch the full edition whenever you have the time. Because this one, what I'm going to do today is I just don't want to talk. I just want to aggregate views from across the world, to see what needs to the good, the bad, and the ugly. Essentially, what can we do better? What can we get right, in the Africa Cup of Nations? And if you're watching me, you can join the debate, leave a note, a comment. I can pull it up from here and I will discuss it, right? So let's get into it. So most sports has existed for around just under 3 years. And we've run so many stories on Morocco as a nation. So, Morocco, we want to thank you for a fantastic tournament. So, we're going to do a drum roll for you, Morocco. Thank you. So, what has Morocco done, that we loved? So, we did a lot of profiling of the infrastructure, the stadiums, the roads, what we have in Morocco pre-tournament on more sports. I think we did about 3 or 4 times. And what we noticed, what I would say is that AFCON 2025 has upped the game when it comes to world class infrastructure. So there's no doubt, that Morocco has delivered outstanding infrastructure, facilities, and stadiums. And all you have to do is look at the Prince Moulay Abdallah Stadium in the capital to see how grand and excellent that stadium is. So, staging the tournament was partly in preparation for co-hosting the 2030 FIFA World Cup alongside Spain and Portugal. So, this has not just happened right now. Over the years, Morocco has benefited from vast investments over recent years, and that is backed by King Mohammed VI. He said that his country's infrastructure had demonstrated resilience at a world-class level of readiness. We agree with the prince. Sorry, we agree with the king. And things will only improve from here on because Morocco, with the State Mohammed V Stadium in Casablanca, a stadium in Fez, Marrakesh, and Agadir, they're set for renovation. So some of the stadiums that the AFCON was played in would even get some upgrade, in preparation for the World Cup. And then there's a work is carrying on another stadium, which is 115,000 seater stadium near Ben Slimani. So Morocco, in terms of world-class infrastructure. This is the best yet that Africa has produced. So we do know that um, it might not. AFCON is just a dress rehearsal. AFCON is preparing, is being prepared as a dress rehearsal for the 2030 World Cup that Morocco wants to co-host with Spain and Portugal. So that's one of the things that we have seen there. So even the other football associations acknowledges that Morocco have done really, really well. So Kenya Football Federation President Hussein Mohammed accepted that Morocco has set a new standard for hosting, but that key steps are being taken to improve existing infrastructure ahead of 2027. So if you remember, Kenya, uh, Tanzania, and Uganda also, Tanzania and Uganda, they will be hosting the next, AFCON in 2027. So they're taking notes, from what Morocco has done. Morocco has set a very, very high standard. So the second thing that we noticed, is that the balance sheet of AFCON has improved. So CAF says revenues generated by AFCON have grown 90%, with ticket revenues increasing significantly from $11 million at the 2023 edition in Ivory Coast to $55 million in Morocco. That is the sort of money that they've generated. It has also increased the number of sponsors and major partners to 23, while the profile of the finals has been boosted by improved social media coverage. So last year, CAF forecast a net profit of more than $114 million from the finals, up from a profit of $75 million 2 years ago. So this is some numbers, and they're doing really, really well. So Asisa Dushoala, one of the stars of Nigeria's women team, recently branded Morocco the new headquarters of African football, saying it was getting boring returning there so often. So those are the things two positive things that we've witnessed. Now, the final itself that we're doing the postmortem on, officiating at the AFCON 2025 in Morocco has been it's left a bitter sweet taste in the mouth. Why did I say that? Because a lot of the matches that are not involving the host team, Morocco, they've been they've been fantastic. The referees have done well. They've carried out their jobs and they've delivered. Yeah, there might be one or two things that you expect. They are human beings, they're never going to be perfect. But officiating involving Morocco has left a bittersweet taste in the mouth. So before the semi-final against Nigeria, Morocco's boss Regrawi went as far as pouring cold water on conspiracy theories who suggested referees have been favoring the hosts. And we know that is one thing that we will look at, the question of Moroccan officials and Moroccan um, of people just denying everything, thinking that, oh, if I just say no, or it didn't happen that way, everything's going to be wished away. No, that's not how to do it. And then the second thing that's negative that we saw in Morocco was security and crowd control. Uh, it's unbelievable that in 2030, I mean in 2025, 2026, we have Moroccan ball boys attempting to rescue Senegalese goalkeeper. They kind of like leaving their restricted zones to actually interfere in the course of play. That is what happened in Morocco. So we're going to discuss all of this, in detail. And one of the things that came out was, again, the issue of change in regulations that is needed. Because if Nigeria had qualified for the finals, Calvin Bassey would have missed the finals. And why? Because the CAF would not go back and align mistakes and make them right. You know, a total of 20 players were walking a tightrope in the semi-finals, knowing that a second caution in the space of 3 matches will rule them out of the final. And in the case of Nigeria, for instance, Calvin Bassey was not even the aggressor. He did not do anything. So he was actually, upended by the Moroccan player. But who did the referee give the yellow card to? Calvin Bassey, who was the victim. So when you have such brazen injustices like that, CAF needs to look at aligning things, to make sure that you have the best quality, of players. So we're gonna take all of that out of the way, what we have said. So I've highlighted things that we're going to discuss. This discussion is going to be around. We noticed two fantastic things: world-class infrastructure from Morocco. We cannot deny that. Improved balance sheet. The commercial success of AFCON 2025 was fantastic. The negatives, we've identified 3. Officiating is really bad. Security and crowd control is really bad. And the regulations, need to be tweaked. So those are the 5 areas around which we will make this discussion. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at far and wide, the quality of other people thinking the same way we are thinking, to see how we marshal out what we don't like about Morocco. And I'm going to be upfront about it. It is not, when everyone is complaining against you, that the officiating that is favoring you over the other teams, and it is visible. If you don't address it, you are going to bring the game into disrepute, and you're going to take the love of the game away from the supporters. So I will be coming and interjecting and discussing some of these things as we go along, so that we can all see things. So I'll be kind of like leaning in on other people to make, the explanations, so that it doesn't seem as if more sports is biased. So I'm going to play this reel for you. This kind of like embodies the summary of AFCON, what really, went on. So let's hear it ourselves. Yeah.
Is when football won. We have played 92 minutes of the final of the African Cup of Nations between Morocco and Senegal, when Senegal make it 1-0. But incredibly, the goal is disallowed, a decision that many believe was incorrect. But just 200 seconds later, in the 96th minute, Morocco get a penalty. And for Senegal, that was enough. Total chaos erupts as the Senegalese coach orders the players to leave the pitch, and fans even begin to fight with the police, because the Senegalese feel that they are playing against a rigged corruption. Throughout the entire tournament, Morocco had received many strange referee decisions in their favor. In the quarterfinal, Cameroon had 2 clear penalties denied against Morocco. And in the semifinal, Nigeria's players were furious over what they called a scandalous refereeing performance that only went the host nation's way. But it doesn't stop there, because ahead of the final, the Senegalese national team were forced to travel to the match by train with barely any security, and also struggled to find an acceptable hotel. And the fact that Morocco were playing the tournament at home, with fans booing the opponents, and on top of that being on paper the strongest footballing nation in Africa, didn't make things easier. But it still doesn't stop there, because throughout the tournament, Moroccan players, ball boys, and even staff members had constantly been stealing the opposition goalkeeper's towels. To explain, the goalkeepers used towels in order to dry their gloves in order to get a better grip of the ball. And in the final, the Senegalese reserve goalkeeper Yevan Diouf had figured this out. So during the final, you can see him running around and wrestling with the Moroccan players in order to protect the towel so that he could give it to the Senegalese first goalkeeper Edouard Mendy. In any normal scenario, this should result in red cards for those Moroccan players engaging in this, but not in this final. All of this contributed to why the Senegalese walked off the pitch. But one man stayed behind and urged them to come back. And that man was the captain Sadio Mane. And after nearly 20 minutes of stoppage, the Senegalese team returned to watch Brahim Diaz take the penalty, which goalkeeper Mendy reads and saves. The match goes on to extra time, and there, Sadio Mane orchestrated the attack that led to the decisive goal. Senegal win the final 1-0 and lift the African Cup of Nations. Football is sadly a sport where money, power, and favoritism rules. But despite that, stories like these can still be created. It makes football more than just a sport, but also a reflection of life, where a country who had given up on their destiny instead came back and created a moment that will last for eternity.
So that was a summary of what happened, in the finals. And it was not only in the finals. So the overall sense that we got from this AFCON is that CAF and Morocco had kind of like colluded to make sure that they were going to rig this tournament in favor of Morocco. That was what played out. And we cannot gloss over that at all. Yeah, if you look at what I've been saying from the beginning, we acknowledged that Morocco spent a lot of money and they got it right. World-class infrastructure, you know, um, the stadiums, the airports, the roads, everything was good. But the way in which they wanted to win by all means necessary and by instrumenting all of the officials to break the rules just because you want to win. That has not gone down with everybody. That you can, and one of the things that I personally don't like about it is the fact that everything, every allegation that has been put forward, that has been captured. See, if you've got a stadium in which there are 45,000 people, understand that there will be more than 45,000 phones, cameras, taking things in real time. So you cannot control the narrative. The same social media that gave you a lot of revenue is the same social media that is exposing what was going on that you want to suppress. And I will come to quite a lot of it. So first thing first, let us even take it from where what they did and why it matters. Because we need to start to understand some of these things. I am going to kind of like get different views because this African Cup of Nations is now so popular that everywhere you turn, there is someone who actually is watching in all the continents of Africa. So I'm going to share this screen with you, and we're going to look at what, the former West Ham goalkeeper, who is now a pundit on NBC Sports in America, has said. So we will check that out. So I'll read it out for you. It's on Football Focus. So former West Ham goalkeeper reveals why Nwabali and Mendy's towers are being taken away by Moroccans and how removing them can feel like a tactical advantage. Shaka Islop said via ESPN, as a goalkeeper, your towel is part of your equipment because for your gloves to function properly, it has to have a certain amount of moisture. So, whether it's dry conditions and you put a lot of water on it and wring it until it's just right, or as in the AFCON final, it's raining and you have to keep them dry so they can function well. I liken it to a player's boots. You wouldn't mess with that depending on the weather. And for a goalkeeper, you're messing with how their gloves function. I keep giggling because it's so farcical. You had officials jumping, ball boys running onto players, and substitutes coming off bench, chasing technically subs. It was just the most ridiculous thing I have ever seen. So that is Shaka Islop. Shaka Islop is a pundit in America in one of the biggest networks, NBC. So this is what we're saying. It is not only the almost 1 billion people of Africa that's watching. So if you have gone to extra lengths to provide the best stadiums, infrastructure, airports, hotels, and you've actually prepared yourself to run a proper tournament, why would you mess it up with this sort of image, going around the world? Why? In fact, if the goalkeeper, if the Senegalese goalkeeper or reserve goalkeeper had fought back, he might have been attacked. What would you say if someone just gave him a, fisticuff and he dies? We've seen this thing happen. What are you going to say? And CAF has been party to what is going on in this, light. So, um, honestly, you can only laugh because this collusion between CAF and Morocco is so obvious that you just have to laugh. So people have been saying, "Oh, let me." Before I even get to that, let's go to other guys and let's share this. This is Thierry Henry when being asked about AFCON. So this is also on CBS Sports Golazo. CBS Sports Golazo is watched all over America, South America, and even in Europe, across the world, actually. So let's hear what he's got to say.
88, and he was actually in Morocco.
With this match day, we do want to just spend a little time talking about Sunday's Africa Cup of Nations final. It was controversial. There were chaotic scenes amidst Panenka, and ultimately then Senegal beating Morocco in extra time. There's so many different aspects of that game to discuss because it was crazy, Thierry. But how do you reflect on the final?
First and foremost, I want to give you a little background with me and the African Cup of Nations, and I will come obviously to what happened to the tournament and the final. So I started to watch the African Cup of Nations in '88, and he was actually in Morocco. That one was in Morocco. I think Cameroon won it against Nigeria in the final. Some names you will remember. Roger Milla was playing in that team. Joseph Antoine Bell. Exactly. But some I grew up watching it because where I'm from, in my neighborhood, that's how it was. You watch the African Cup of Nations. Some guys will talk about like Belloumi, that was a very famous player in Algeria. You will have a guy like Abdoulaye Traoré. His nickname is Ben Badi for the Ivory Coast. And then I can mention the guys also that came to play in Europe, Didier Drogba, Samuel Eto'o, JJ Okocha, and whatnot. That was always, for me, a tournament that I enjoyed to watch because you could see skills, great teams, and a good tournament. Really, that's my view, that's my opinion. I just wanted to say that because it's important. So I watched it. I watch also this competition. I will always watch it. So to go back to the final and the competition, first and foremost, the competition was outstanding. Outstanding. Morocco did a great job in terms of the infrastructure, the stadium, the hotels were excellent. Now we go to the final. what you saw, the reaction of the team of Senegal wanting to leave the field was wrong. That's not the image that you want to give, not only for African football, for any football. You don't want to do that. Do I understand the frustration of how it happened in the final, or what happened just before, and then the penalty, and whatever it is? This is what I'm talking about. They thought in their eyes that that was a goal scored by Ismail Assar, and then after, the penalty goes, obviously, on Brahim Diaz. So what I'm trying to say right now is that happened in a very quick moment. Okay, very, very, very quick. Some of the guys, obviously, you can see the coach was like, we need to go inside. Sadio Mane called them back. Brahim Diaz obviously misses it, trying to do a Panenka. Then we all know that Senegal goes on to win it with Pape Gueye. But what I'm trying to say is, that's not what you want to see. You can see the goal of Pape Gueye now. What a finish. And Senegal, and obviously it's nice to see Sadio Mane winning it and finishing with an AFCON and trophy when he said he was going to stop. But I want to go back to a point here, which is very important. For me, again, I go back because I want to say it again. You don't want to see that. You don't want to see a team leaving the field. Do I understand the frustration? Yes. The way they went about it? No. And for me, that's not going to define how the tournament was. Only thing that I would say, though, watching the AFCON for a very long time, the referees are not at the level of the show. All the stuff that happened in those tournaments sometimes are made because of referee mistakes. And I'm not blaming the referee. I'm blaming the people that are not training them to be at the level of the football that we're watching. And that's about it. Other than that, like I said so many times, it was a great tournament. It became a tiny bit more interesting from the quarterfinals, okay? But I will always watch the African Cup of Nations. That is not what you want to see, but I personally won't stay on what I saw at the very end because the tournament was good. And the celebration of Senegal, it's nice to see Sadio Mane again finishing like that. And as you, I know you want to say maybe something about Sadio Mane and what he has achieved in his career.
Yeah, he's had an amazing career, isn't he? And obviously, what the situation that happened in the final as well. Obviously, bringing his teammates back on. You've seen him spoken to El Hadji Diouf there, but you mentioned about the referees there. Could there not be a case where you actually bring some of the top European referees?
I understand. No, it has to be. You have to give African referees a chance. It is an African tournament. It has to be African referees. I'm talking about sending someone, or I don't know, to put them to a certain level, because you can see there's mistake and more mistakes all the time. And it does tarnish a bit the tournament. And people always blame, the tournament. It's not the tournament's fault. It's not the players' fault. It's not the team's fault. It is something that I think needs to change in order to have a better tournament, the referees.
So Morocco, the losing finalists, it was a bad night at home for them on Sunday.
Okay, welcome back. So that was Thierry Henry saying what I've been saying. He's been watching AFCON since 1998. So I'm older than he is by several years. But you can begin to understand that the AFCON is one of the biggest and the most watched football tournament on planet Earth. And what we deserve in AFCON is a CAF that is alive to its duties. When he said he watched it in 1988, I can forgive Thierry Henry for being a Francophile. He's tilted towards the French aspect of Africa because he is a French national. So that's why he was mentioning all of those names, and he forgot Segun Odegbami, Rashidi Yekini. We've got fantastic players, from this other side, of Africa. But what is not contestable was that in Morocco 88, Nigeria was robbed. And the referee that was involved came from Mauritania. Issa Hayatou, who was the CAF chairman, was heavily involved in making sure that the tournament went to Cameroon by all means necessary. So this is a type of corruption that we have to face up to in Africa. So Thierry Henry does not have all of the facts about what happened beforehand. The reason why Senegal had to leave the Senegalese coach, to be clear, I do not support players not completing the game. I do not support, and most sports does not support, the Senegalese coach asking the players to leave the pitch. We don't support that. But the problem is, this kind of corruption has gone on for so long, over 60 years in Africa, that if the Senegalese had not walked off the pitch, they would not have got what they deserved. It's just unfortunate. And personally, I do think that the Senegalese doing that this time around is justified. And this sentiment that I'm expressing here is what you can get across all Africa, because I shared quite a lot of information about what went down in all of the state capitals. In Algeria, they were jubilating. They were supporting the Senegalese to win. In Egypt, the same thing was happening. And all across Africa. In fact, Arsene Wenger said, all of Africa is against Morocco. Yes, we will be against Morocco, because it gets to a point where influence becomes servitude. It gets to a point where influence becomes servitude. And that is what, we need to guide against. If Africa, the point is that Morocco is the best team on paper. They should stroll to that cup. If you're confident in your own players, you would not be needing the referees to do all of that. And I would say, in a counter argument to what Thierry Henry was saying, CAF and FIFA trains the referees. In fact, go back to the last AFCON in Cote d'Ivoire. African referees were actually held up as the lights for European referees. In Europe, they were having problems with using VAR. They were having problems with getting basic things right. At AFCON in Cote d'Ivoire, the African referees performed fantastically well. That was because Cote d'Ivoire was not banking, was not inducing the CAF, Confederation of African Football, organization, to win by all means necessary at all costs. If you want to win at all costs, then it's no longer a tournament. It's no longer a tournament. So I think I will show you some of the things that went down that probably Thierry Henry did not, see, not understand. So that's why I said that this one is going to be a long one, and we're going to play quite a few videos. So let's check this one. Okay, what can you see there? What can you see there? You find the Moroccan police and the Moroccan crowd control actually inciting the Senegalese fans. You saw that guy that was being dragged. What could go wrong? If his spinal cord snatches, what do you think can go wrong? We're talking about being disabled for life or actually dying from that. You know, and I have seen all of the communications coming out of Morocco is denial of everything. Everything is being denied. So let's cut to the chase here. If Morocco, okay, I'll show you one more thing so that I can make my comment based on that. So now, will you check that out? So that is a Moroccan player. What did he do? He reposted a tweet. No, I think it's on Instagram. A post that says Africa doesn't deserve Morocco. Africa doesn't deserve Morocco. How arrogant, how racist, and how condescending can you be? And he's not alone in this. There's complete evidence of how Black Africans have been treated in Arab North Africa. It's a whole complete social discourse on its own. When you come out as a player and you begin to say this sort of thing, or you begin to share this sort of thing, then we have to go back in history. Because in 1987, Morocco pulled out of African Union and said they want to go with Europe. You were rejected by Europe. 20-something years later, you came back begging to be part of African Union again because of your political agenda. And then you came back. And this is what we get in 2026, that Africa doesn't deserve Morocco. And that is why Asisat Oshoala said that we're tired of coming to Morocco. So let's break it down for you. A lot of African countries are in deep financial woes. So if you see development going on anywhere, it is largely on borrowed money. So we do know that Egypt is building a new city, and that is tanking the economy. Egypt is heavily indebted. Heavily indebted. That's why it has to do anything that the US says. To the IMF, to the World Bank, to all of these, people. The same thing for Morocco. We know about some of the social unrest that is going on underneath, because people are actually saying that all of this money that you are using to construct, stadiums and all of that should actually go into feeding the people. Right. So we're not saying it's unique to North Africa alone. It's everywhere. So on what basis? The infrastructure you claim to have, other countries have infrastructure, but you are very close geographically to Europe. So the tourism in Europe is well developed. So you could get people coming into Africa. So when people want to get into Africa, people go to where the transport infrastructure is actually well developed. So it's cheaper, for instance, to fly from Europe into Morocco. Most sports team, went to Morocco. And I told you what it costs each one of us to get into Morocco. You have to pay 4 to 5 times to go to Nigeria, to go to Ghana, to go to West Africa. You can even pay more to go to South Africa. So that's how it is. Even at that, the amount of tourism that West Africa gets is not documented, but it's quite a lot. Now, the amount of remittances that comes into Africa, the majority of it comes from sub-Saharan Africa. Africa. So all of this arrogance, where is it coming from? Because every time you host an African tournament, Africa comes into Morocco. You don't give them free hotels, they pay for it. You don't give them free transport. People pay to get onto Air Maroc. They come, they don't get free food from the restaurants. They buy it themselves. So they bring money, they develop your economy. So Africans coming in are actually spending money in your economy. They could have taken the same money, go to Asia or go to other parts of Africa. So if we say you have infrastructure, there's infrastructure elsewhere. So maybe it's time for CAF to rotate this so that we're not in debt of Morocco. And quite a few things we've had that the Moroccan FA chairman has been talking down on, for instance, on his colleagues like Gusso, who is the FA chairman for Nigeria. So these are the things that we need to get into. So I will show you a few more, things that went down that this time around Africa cannot overlook. Now, watch this, please. So what can you see there? That is a bunch of Moroccan fans who, one of them is sporting the Senegalese jersey, and they were throwing bananas and hooting like monkeys to say that the Senegalese are monkeys. And these are the people that wants African brotherhood or African unity. Stuff like this does not even happen in Europe anymore. Or even if it happens in isolation. This is a group of people who have decided to make racist, videos like this about African people who on the field of play you cannot beat. This is so sad. It's so sad. And let me tell you what, if Morocco wants to host the World Cup, it can only do it by involving Africans, by staging tournaments like this. That is what FIFA uses to measure your preparedness. And you're not the first to do it. South Africa has done it and done it beautifully well. And after the World Cup has gone, if you've hosted the World Cup in 2030 and it's come and gone, you will rely on Africa to make those stadiums not become white elephant projects. You will rely on Africans, to come as part of club football into those stadiums. You will want to host tournaments to bring crowd into Morocco so that you can earn revenue from tourism and all of that. And it's the same people that you are portraying as monkeys. How does this elevate you? That is so shameful. It's so shameful that I don't know what to say. This is 2026, and that's how backward the Moroccan society is. Development is not just about buildings and then infrastructure. Development is also of the mind. So I'll show you a few more things that was going on in Morocco. So let me show you this. 18 Senegalese supporters that were goaded by the Moroccan police, that were attacked by the Moroccan police, that were forced to defend themselves. You arrested and detained 18 of them. So how many of those ball boys that are stealing towels, how many of them did you actually arrested? How many of those officials that are stealing towels did you get arrested? None. Okay. Let me show you another one. So let me show you this one. It's quite sad, right? So those are Senegalese fans that were attacked by the Moroccan police. They were attacked by the Moroccan police. Senegalese fans celebrating their win were attacked by the Moroccan police. And this is not the first time this is happening in North Africa. Just in the World Cup qualifiers, the Nigerian team went to Libya and they were treated like nobodies. In fact, their lives were endangered because they kept asking them to cycle in the air, and they had to sleep at the airport, for like 8 hours before they got their bus moving, just to demoralize them. The same thing that was done to Senegal. The same thing that was done to Senegal. So the assault was both on field and outside of the stadiums as well. This is the Moroccan police. Let me play it for you once more so that we're not, Okay, that's an assault of the Moroccan fans. I mean, the Senegalese fans. For what? For supporting their team. And it's not an isolated. All of these things, there was this incident that happened of a guy entitled Sheikh Diouf. It was a victim of brutal attack. It was stabbed. That guy. And that's him. That's his image. What did the Moroccan police do? Nothing. What did the Moroccan authorities do? Nothing. They just issued a rebuttal. Oh, it did not happen. They denied it. They denied that this happened. And you want people to forget or to look at you as, the funny thing, the tournament has barely finished. Morocco was given the fair play, plaque. They were the fairest of all the teams that came to to play at AFCON. That is funny. It's just so childish. It's so puerile. It's laughable. See, let's see this again.
Was biased, and this is Cameroon against Morocco. Compare the situation here to that of yesterday, Senegal against Morocco. Tell me, which one is more dangerous? Because in this case, not even a free kick was awarded. This is the reason why so many people think that officiating of AFCON 2025 was biased and very, very poor. This is Cameroon.
So, what do you want to say to the world? All of this that I'm showing you, all of these injustices, all of this collusion, with referees, and why did it keep happening to the Moroccan team alone? It's virtually all of the teams that Morocco played had one complaint or the other. The Malians had complained against them. The Tanzanians had complaints against them. And all of these teams are not managed by Africans. There are Europeans who manage some of these teams. It's the same thing they've been saying. That was against Cameroon. Instead of, I think Samuel Eto'o was vocal about his condemnation of what happened. What did that CAF do? What did CAF do? They fined him $20,000 and a few more quid, because he complained about what they did, about the injustice. So how are we going to take CAF, seriously? CAF is in the pockets of Morocco. That's what he is. So at the end of the day, sports come down to dignity. If this thing does not guarantee the dignity of Africans, I think you're losing so many Africans, with all of this. So all of this that I'm saying to you, look at where it's been. That final was watched in New York. And I can tell you, you know what? The African diaspora, do you know how many Nigerians live outside of Nigeria? Upwards of 30 million people they live outside. So you have second, third generation Nigerians. Same thing for other West African countries, all the way down to South Africa, including in North Africa as well. So this is what makes AFCON what it is, because more sports is based in the UK and is dealing with African sports. We have so many organizations like that. So you're not going to get away with what's going on in AFCON currently. So this is Mamdani. Mamdani is the mayor of New York City. And there is hosting a watch along, at the City Hall for all of this. Let me make it so that you can see what's going on. This Mamdani, right? Look at Senegalese in New York. Look at the Moroccans in New York. Look at all of them, the Senegalese in New York. Look at them. Look at Africans coming together, trying to enjoy the game, try to enjoy the festival, try to represent Africa, love Africa, outside of Africa. And what did we get from CAF? That tournament that was full of racism, rigging, corruption. I don't think, see, the whole world is saying this. That's why I brought clips from all over the world, so that everyone can see what is the world thinking. What is the world thinking about what went on there? So Thierry Henry was trying to say, all right, maybe the referees are not good enough. They're good. The referees will only do what they've been asked to do. The kind of pressure they're under to make sure that they write a script or to bring a scripted end, to the game. So, yeah, I will say, let me play a few more because, okay, let me show you one of these thing that went on again in Morocco.
Holland. Ñu agressé gars yi yi nga agressé gars yi gis ngeen naar yaa ngi agressé restaurant Mama Africa. Oh.
So, there you go. That is African restaurants belonging to the Senegalese. It may not even be the Senegalese. It might be the Gambians. It might be, the Ghanaians. It might be the Togolese. It might be the Beninois. They are destroying that restaurant. What has what happened in the stadium got to do with what is happening on the streets? And you think CAF does not see this? No, you're saying FIFA is not going to see this. Look, it's unfortunate that all of the preparedness, all of the spending, all of the preparation has been messed up by all the things that carried on just because you want to win by all means necessary. That has soiled the image of this AFCON. It's not about money. It's not about having money. It's not about infrastructure. Yes, infrastructure is good. Money is good. But Cote d'Ivoire, coming out of a war, a civil war, they've hosted the tournament and we enjoyed it. And that's what Africa is all about. They've enjoyed it. Rennie says, thanks for bringing it live here. You know what we do, Rennie? That's what we do at Most Sports. We come with facts. We don't just say, oh, this is what happened, blah, blah, blah. We report what we see. We praised Morocco. We showcased all of the stadium efforts. We praised it. We went there. Go on our YouTube channel. We praised Morocco. We highlighted all the good things only about Morocco. But at the end of the day, Morocco chose to mess up his own image. I don't understand it. You want to steal towers. Steal towers. It's unbelievable. And, we've shared that. So again, let's say the BBC report about the whole tournament. Let's hear it.
He was the one. Here are 3 things I can tell you about what I saw: the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good, Sadio Mane, already a legend in Senegal, now an all-time African great, not just for winning his second AFCON, but with the way that he behaved when everyone else was losing their heads. He was the one Teranga lion who looked very uneasy about the walk-off, instigated by his coach, Pat Shaw, and got his players back out again. And when Senegal lifted the trophy, he was lifted onto their shoulders and had the captain's armband thrust upon him. That is the image that we want to see. The bad, well, let's be honest, most of the rest of it was bad. We had the walk-off. Shaw admitted afterwards that it was the wrong thing to do, but what you might not have seen is that Moroccan journalists got their own back and also walked out on Shaw in his post-match press conference. Then, of course, you have Brahim Diaz trying to Panenka his penalty. What was he thinking? Some people have been saying he missed on purpose because Senegal did not celebrate. That is rubbish. Diaz's body language said it all. That was a man who knew what he had done. There were tears, and that miss is going to stay with him for life. The ugly, plenty of this as well on a bad night for African football. Remember, Morocco are co-hosting the 2030 World Cup. This was supposed to be their big advert, and FIFA boss Gianni Infantino was here in Rabat to see it go wrong. Everyone today talking about the Moroccan ball boys trying to steal Edouard Mendy's towel, wrestling with a Senegalese who was trying to stop them. At one point, they rolled onto the pitch while the game was going on. I could see Moroccan fans throwing things at Mendy, but the really ugly stuff came at the other end, where Senegal fans tried to break onto the pitch
and were fought back by riot police, I saw fans wielding metal chairs as weapons. Unsurprisingly, the Confederation of African Football has condemned it all and threatened sanctions. Yes, the final was chaotic, dramatic. It's going to be remembered for a very long time. Here are 3 things I can tell you about what.
Okay, so that is what the BBC makes of it. Yep, I've taken your time, but I'll just round up with 2 things. CAF is threatening sanctions to who? To themselves. Because you can't do anything without the fans. You can't do anything without the Black African fans. You can't. It's Africa. So you are complicit in this show of shame. CAF, you are complicit. Because there are over 1 million organizations like us, covering African football all over social media every day. And we stand for the truth. We stand for what is right. If Morocco gets it right, we praise them. If they get it wrong, we tell them they get it wrong. So you doling out fines to Eto and all of that without obvious injustices, obvious collusions, obvious corruption in the game. You have to do something about that. Gianni Infantino knows. They know. FIFA knows that the cross of that thing. See, where I am is, I do not support Papetier and Senegal getting off the pitch. But if they had not gotten off the pitch, the same injustice that was done to Tanzania, that was done to Mali, that was done to Nigeria, that was done to Cameroon, is going to happen to them. And see, in the life of a footballer, Senegal at the peak of their powers won it once. This group of players won it in 2021, right? And they could not do it again until 2025, 2026. So look, it's what you're doing is you're denying people who have picked at the right period from winning what is duly theirs. So that's what's going on. And now let me show you the last thing so that I can get off the screen. When I say that CAF is in the pockets of Morocco, this is exactly what I mean. Remember, at the AFCON, the referee, Morocco thought they were going to win it. They were leading 2-0, and the Super Falcons scored 3 goals to win it. And what did Morocco do? They sued the referee. They sued the referee that was doing his job. Did a proper job. They sued him. And members of the House of Rep, I don't want to bore you with quite a lot of evidence. Top political brass in Morocco, they've been talking down on the rest of Africa and Africans and the Senegalese. I'm telling you, these are the guys who are complicit in the corruption, talking down on the people who are the victims of that corruption, right? The Moroccan FA chairman has been talking down on everyone. He's been talking down on the Nigerian NFF, chairman, for all I've done for you and all that kind of nonsense. You see, they say pride goes before a fall. That's what this is going to be, because everyone is seeing Morocco in a new light now. Yeah, fantastic hosting, infrastructure was good, revenue went up, but the rest of it versus your team, rigged. So what we see is corruption. So look at this. ESPN Africa. This is how Morocco dominated 2025 CAF Awards. So look at all the stuff. Achraf Hakimi, Player of the Year. Ghislaine Chibak, Women Player of the Year, despite the fact that Nigeria won that tournament. And the lady with the most player of the match, title was Nigerian captain. It was overlooked. Yasin Bono deserved. Achraf Hakimi deserved. Othman Mama deserved. Doa Madani, I don't know. Sana Mosi, I don't know. Lamia Bumedi, Women Coach of the Year. How can he be the Women Coach of the Year when the Nigerian coach took over from somebody else and led the team to their win in a dramatic style, scoring the most goals? How can they? How can Lamia Bumedi be Coach of the Year? As FAR, Women Club of the Year, Morocco Under-20 National Team of the Year. That's deserved. But I mean, for look, it's just like kids, playing on the streets, and one side of the team said, "I want all the medals. You don't deserve any medal." So this is so childish. I mean, this is 2026. It's 2026. It's no longer the 80s. It wasn't 1988 when Isayato was messing things up across the whole of Africa. Right. So, just to tidy up the whole thing, what we're saying here is not that we're saying that they've done really bad. I'll show you something, because people might say this episode that we've done that we don't like Morocco. Far from it. If any sensible, any man with any sort of IQ understood that we've covered Morocco in the most positive of light. But what has happened during this tournament has actually kind of like put doubts, a lot of doubts in that facade, that image that has been there. But all is not lost, because, like I said to you, I'm going to play this for you. Let's play this, and I'll come back and do the final say.
Of the tournament, were they a good host?
Morocco is the best host.
Of course, I think 100%.
They have been very good hosts. I really want to say thank you to all Moroccan people. I came here with my little girl, my son, and my baby. He's out there with her mom. So it was very nice in supermarkets, taxi, on train stations, in stadiums. People were very great. And also about infrastructure, they got a high-speed train, so we could be able to visit 6 cities during the AFCON.
That's amazing.
That's amazing.
Do you have a message for the Moroccan fans as hosts?
Last AFCON, we lost on penalties against the host. People back in the country, many people were very disappointed. But we came back stronger with different players, and we make the difference. So I think they should be proud of their team first. And second, I think they should rely on Hakimi. Hakimi is a very good player. But this tournament, he didn't play 100%. So in the final, you see Sadio Mane tackling him. So I think they should remain focused, not fire the coach. Do not do that mistake. Do not do that mistake. Don't fire the coach.
Okay.
And next AFCON, you will come back stronger, and we hope to meet you again in final.
So I think that's all we have time for today. What I'm just going to say is that in rounding this up, my thoughts are that infrastructure, if you listen to that, what those guys are saying is that, okay, the infrastructure is good. I came in, got a good hotel. I could move around on the trains, it was easy. That's fine. We give it to Morocco. But when it came to the sporting side, it was a different ballgame. It was saying something about Hakimi. It was trying to do a lot of PR there, trying to sound good. It was saying something about Hakimi, and Hakimi was in the player of the tournament. Hakimi did not play the first three or first two games, and throughout the rest is not really been influential on Moroccan game. And suddenly, it was in the team of the tournament. So this is the sort of things that you need to grow up and stop doing. Attacking footballers, attacking fans, police attacking fans, getting unaccredited people to steal towels, to influence, the flow of play in a tournament as good as AFCON that's watched worldwide. In all of the continents on this earth, AFCON was being watched. So, how are you going to be so much influential on CAF and the referees that you scripted it that the cup, Morocco will win the cup? You're losing Africa. You're losing the rest of Africa. You cannot host the world without Africa. You tried it before. You wanted to join Europe, and they said no. We, on what basis? On what basis? When it comes to European football, those of us who are here, who are citizens of European nations, we watch that. And when it comes to Africa, we stay with Africa as well. So I think CAF, for me, has the most blame in this. The next African Cup of Nations does not need to happen in Morocco. It's not even good for the players. It's not good for the morale of Africa. It is not good for anything. Okay, we've seen Morocco. Sayonara. We'll see you another time. Let's go to other places. Let's go to East Africa. Let's go to South Africa. Let's go to North Africa. Let's go to West Africa. They don't need to be as polished as Morocco. No, they're not hosting the World Cup. They're hosting AFCON. Even when it was 16 member tournament in Morocco, in Nigeria, Nigeria hosted the 80s, for instance. It was one of the best ever. We enjoyed it. It was good. There was fair play. They didn't have to drag Arabs out in the streets and start to beat them up. But in 2026, Black Africans, were being beaten up on the streets of Morocco by Moroccan police and Moroccan thugs, attacking restaurants, attacking fans right there in the stadium. That is so wrong. And for me, what Senegal did, was it justifiable? No. But can you understand it? Yes, I do. And what it did, as it changed the perception of the rest of the world? Yes, it did. Did it get the result? Yes, it did. So I think next time anyone is hosting must realize that the fact that you're hosting the game does not mean you should rig the outcome. So on that note, I want to thank you for staying with me and for going through all of this, um, research, deep dive that we've had, and then you can make up your own mind. I hope you have a fantastic rest of the evening. Sayonara.